Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. This is Crescent Dreams Tarot, and this is going to be the last video. Well, actually, no. It might actually be the last. This might be the penultimate video about my deep dive kind of into my favorite tarot cards from each of my decks. Well, specifically, my favorite versions of each specific card. If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the time you see this video, I will already have had a few different hashtags that people could do VRs to if they would like from all their decks. The first one was Wonderful Wands. The second one was, I think I put Charismatic Cups. I think so. Wow, not me not remembering, but it's because I film my videos in advance. I'm sorry. Charismatic Cups, Severe Swords, and now I'm going to deep dive into the Pentacles. In this case, I'm going to choose to tag Practical Pentacles. It relates to the Pentacles. Okay, I'm trying to be alliterative. I like alliterative things. Anyways, this video is me going over my favorite cards from all my decks. I looked through all of them. It takes a long time, but I don't have as big of deck. I don't have as many decks as others, so it's not as big, but it's still kind of a pain to look through all my cards. And I'm just looking at my favorite Pentacles. Now, remember, I've already done my court card favorites, so obviously you're not going to see the court cards, but here's my favorite versions of each of the other cards in the Pentacle suit, or sometimes called coins. Even some of the decks I will show, I think they're called like by other names, so yeah. Anyways, let's get into it. The Ace of Pentacles. I have two that I found myself really liking. Practical Magic Tarot, Lord of the Rings Tarot, Aces. Now, interestingly, actually, in the Lord of the Rings Tarot, it's called the Ace of Rings because instead of being pentacles or coins, it's playing into the idea of the one ring. The reason why I like this one is mainly just to do with the imagery. I'm not gonna lie, it's the imagery that I really like for this ace. But also it's interesting because it is the ring, the one ring, and you can see kind of like the eye aesthetic inside of the ring and like the manipulation. This ring has the potential for a lot of things. And a lot of different people, especially in the universe of the Lord of the Rings, for those who don't know, it brings down some and many, actually not some, many, because of its potential. People think it's a good thing at first, but then of course it spirals out of control and other things, it's just about potential. But I really liked this imagery, and a lot can be said if you know Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to geek out about it too much. This Pentacle, I just really liked it because it's like abundance begins. You can see the flower imagery. It's very beautiful collage work. It's just this energy that you're manifesting, The Ace is about the beginning. And because the Ace is about practical matters, it could be the beginning of a work potential, a job potential, a lot of different spheres it covers. Practical matters. Abundance. I just like this imagery a lot. It was very cool to see. I'm going to put them over here. The two. Do I have multiple twos? Yes, I do. Okay. Had to look here. I have two different Two of Pentacles that I liked. Now, traditionally in RWS, because I can't speak to Thoth, I haven't studied that. So, in traditional RWS, you always see the person trying to balance the two coins because it is about juggling things. But I liked these two for how they depict them. So this one, interestingly enough, this is from the Paulina Tarot. These are the backs. The reason why I like this Two of Pentacles is because the idea of having to juggle between things and balance out your priorities, especially work priorities, life priorities, the practical matter priorities, is that this this deck is really amplifying that idea of juggling and having to balance. I could not imagine what it'd be like trying to like balance between two things while riding on a horse, which by the way has the most like intense expression on his face, like, oh shit, this is gonna go horribly wrong at any particular time. And I also just like the colors, it's just very comical, but it brings to light really that Two of Pentacles energy and what it takes to balance. Because at any moment in time, this person could topple off, or this horse could trip and fall and still topple, or, all kinds of things. It's really a balancing act. And I liked how this card in particular highlighted that. But this one also makes it literal. Juggle it all. Again, from Practical Magic. What I like about the imagery of this card is that it shows all the different ways, even in the Pentacle suit, that you might be juggling. In this case, these two girls, they have to juggle their education, write books, trying to learn things with potential home life. This almost looks like the seasons, like juggling how seasons and time can change all your different priorities. Money, this is glitter, but it reminds me of, like the idea of Pentacles, like the money. It's like balancing just everyday expenses of life. And I also like how this card, it's like a lot of implication of like kids and all the things that they are having to juggle as well as they grow up. Because it's not just adults, it's like, how does everybody in life have to balance their time in between things? Like life, things are tough. Education is tough. Work is tough. So many different things. So I thought this was really appropriate. Juggle it all. And like, how do you balance between these priorities? That's what this card's really about, For the 3, I have, let me just double check. Yeah, it's only 2. I feel like a majority of these actually are 2. And what's funny about the Pentacles, trying to sort through my Pentacles, is here's something to know about me if you don't, if I haven't already mentioned this in some other video. I don't know. I almost said I don't know shit. I know some shit, a little shit about astrology. Only a tiny bit. Only a tiny, okay? I know that, for instance, all I know really is my sun, my moon, and my rising, and I can't tell you shit about anything else. I really don't know. And I really don't even fully understand rising. But anyways, and I do know a little bit about the other ones in my chart. I just don't know them in details. I can tell you, though, from looking that over, I barely have Earth. I barely have the Earth energy in my astrological chart. I just don't. So it was hard for me kind of to find even Pentacles that I liked. That's the interesting thing. But it was interesting that I was at least able to pick at least 2 Pentacles of each one. That I liked. And yeah. So I just wanted that little segue to say, you're going to see an average of 2. I'm amazed I even found 2. Because I don't know, the Pentacles, sorry for people who really love it, but the Pentacles is kind of like my least favorite suit. I've always had an issue. Maybe it's because I'm a more creative mind. I love like, other things that it's hard for me sometimes to be practical. But anyways, not going to deep dive into that right now. Let's go on to the 3. Sorry about that segue. These ended up being my 2, oops, this one's upside down. Ended up being my 2 favorite 3 of Pentacles cards. So this is from the Edmund Duloc. And this one is from Anna Mamundi. And let me explain why these are my 2 favorite 3 of Pentacles cards. For those who are still getting into tarot, still trying to understand all the meanings of the cards. And this is, by the way, only my own understanding of the cards. That should be abundantly clear. The 3 for me is always about collaboration and teamwork. This is about, especially in work situations, this is about how you can work together with your community to make a whole, or to make a product, or to make anything, So it's a very work-centric card. which is why I liked this 3 from the Edmund Duloc, because they, if you can look very closely, this team is working together to try to find a solution to whatever the heck went wrong with this. I can't tell if it's like a loom. I think it's a loom, some kind of loom or, old press, because of that thing right there. See that? And so they're trying to work together to figure out the problem. And I like that this card is showing that, because a lot of the decks, they just I never understood why that was so, but they show like that stained glass, window thing. And I'm like, how is that supposed to show teamwork? But anyways, this to me shows more teamwork. And that's why I really like this depiction of the 3. But if I know a couple you don't like bugs. I should have blocked that earlier. I'm so sorry. But there's bees here. I'm sorry, people. The reason why, though, I really like this 3 for others is that if you know anything about bees, bees have to work together. Their hive is a community, is a unit. And they build their hives together. They gather honey together. They're doing it for, their community. And that's the ultimate sign of teamwork, in my opinion, is yes. How do you work together to make things running smoothly? So I liked this one too. Maybe I'll push this one a little farther so people don't have to see that. Sorry. Trying to be more mindful of please let me know also if certain things bother you. I realize for a couple people it's like bugs, so sorry. I try to cover that up if a deck features bugs. I'm not really as bothered. So yeah. Anyways, moving on though from that. 3, that was the 3s. 4 of Pentacles for me. The only way I think of the 4 is mostly like, how are you being very miserly or being very I hesitate to use the word selfish, but sometimes it could be like, how are you being too frugal with your money, resources, anything, right? These 2 ended up being my favorite. Well, this deck, the Tarot Divine calls it coin suit instead of pentacles. This is the pentacles for this one. I liked these 2. Oh, this is, before I move on, this is the Ocean Tarot. I like these 2 for very different reasons. The reason why I liked this one is just a funny imagery kind of with the idea of this. This is a crab here that is taking all these coins or these pentacles for itself. And crabs, it always reminds me of that scene, isn't it, from Finding Nemo, where the seagulls, funny enough, there's seagulls in the background of this, where they're going like, mine, and the crab is like trying to get the stuff too. It's just that very like selfish, like get everything as much as possible as I can kind of thing. So this like cracked me up kind of. And that's more of why I like this card so much, is just it harkens back to that. It's like the mentality of like, oh no, I have to like squirrel this away. And the crab's just doing that. It's just really funny to me. Maybe I'll go like this so that people don't have to see the bugs. Anyways, so that's just more for comical reasons, but that's why I really like this one. This 4 of coins more relates to the story behind this card. So if you don't have Tarot of the Divine, this is I believe it's a Peruvian story about Condor. So Condor is like a figure in a Peruvian myth, okay? And he was trying to, I'm going to butcher this, but you can also read more about it in, oh God, it's not even going to fit in the screen, but Beneath the Moon, she talks more in depth about this, Yoshitani. It's a Peruvian myth, and Condor, he didn't really listen to her once, and he tried to steal this poor girl to be his bride. And he tried to hide her away and take her away from her family and everything she knew, because he thought he was owed her, and he was also like, kind of being selfish of that. It's just a really interesting version of this card. It's like sometimes it's okay to like want to preserve things, but it's not okay to want to preserve things at the expense of, in this case, somebody else, you know? So it's just a really interesting story. It was more because I liked the story behind this. And again, I'm abridging it, but that's why I really like this idea for the Four of Coins. Because it's not always just about your resources. It could be the people in your life. And that's a different way to look at Pentacles, but yeah. Moving on, the Five. This card, I understand what this card means very well about like poor, destitution, like sad times happening to you. But for some reason, I didn't like a lot of images of the Five that I was seeing in my decks. So the ones that like kind of resonated the most for me were, interestingly enough, these two. This is from the Northern Animal Tarot. And this Five is from the Tempest Tarot. I just like how this isn't like, you can tell that these poor rats are sad and that they're going through hard times. Like you can see their cute little faces going, oh my goodness, everything kind of sucks. And that's why they're out in the cold on this stormy, snowy night. It's woe is me, but it's not like showing it, I guess, in a, maybe it is more traditional. I don't know. I always see like that stained glass window related to the Five. But I like that this wasn't it. But you still get the sense that like everything's kind of sad for them. And just bad times, you know. So I liked this Five for that. But I also like this Five Pentacles because it makes it very clear in one bit about what's happened. In this case, since this is a very nautical, piratey themed deck, your ship has completely, you know, dead in the water. It's on land. It's broken apart. It's a skeleton. It cannot work anymore. Everything has gone wrong, especially your main way of, I guess, piratey income. I don't know. But everything has broken down. And I think this is a really interesting way of showing it without having to be the traditional way, you know? Oh, this is one, this ended up being my favorite one. Six, let's talk about Six of Pentacles. If you have the Four of Pentacles being like, you're being too close to the chest, you're keeping everything too close to you. The Six is about needing to share. But it's always like the traditional RWS, for those who don't know, the traditional RWS. I think I even talked about this in my Modern Hue Tarot video, is it shows it in this way that's almost like, here, peasant, here's your coins, here's this, I'm being so generous to you, haha. It's just in a way I don't really like. So a lot of decks, they kind of do show the generosity, but none of them, I didn't like as many of them as much as I liked this one. Once again, from Practical Magic, this is becoming, by the way, a deck that I'm like really starting to bond with because it really does the minors justice. Not so much, I would say, the Major Arcana, but the minors really done justicely, and I love it. But this ended up being one of my favorite Six of Pentacles, because of the idea that sharing is caring. This is kind of something I hear a lot too, because I work in education with kids. This reminds me very childlike of like kids being like, ooh, can I try this? I want this cupcake. Ooh, but I can give you some peaches or Jello or this, you know what I mean? It's like the idea of sharing is caring. You should give your resources, but also being like, what resources do you give? And what are people trying to share with you? It's just a really interesting reflection. But this was easy for me to understand right away because it's like, again, I work with kids and they're always on this mentality. So I just liked seeing it in this card. Seven of Pentacles. What I always think about is it's the planning card in my mind, you know, especially work-related things or goals you have in mind. I always see it as I need to build towards that because it could produce something better. And the two, well, this one calls it the coins. This is the Pentacles. But the two that I like the most are from the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. And this is, oh shoot, I think this is called the Trinity Tarot. Oh, and sorry about my lighting. It's like slowly getting darker where I am. But anyways, why I like this Seven of Coins is that Maggie Stiefvater, she really explains in her guidebook how, the art of trying to grow roses, especially on a trellis, is harder than people would think, especially if you don't know anything about growing roses or any plants, right? It's very hard. It's very time consuming. And to get it even in this shape can be a lot of work. But the result can be very, very worth it. And I just like how it's showing that in this card in a very simple way, but very beautiful and effective way. If trying to understand, it can be hard to do this. But this one also shows it in a very interesting and different way. This deck is very kind of, not going to lie, it's kind of pippish. So I don't always work with this deck because, you guys know my feelings on pip decks. Very mixed thoughts. But this 7 is really fascinating to me because it's the idea that this one pentacle, this one seed, became a tree that sprouted other potentials. It's shown very simply, but really effectively. And I really like that, And that's why this ended up being one of my favorite pentacles. I kind of stopped and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice, And now the 8s. You know what's interesting about the 8 of coins? I actually have 3 for this. I didn't realize. I actually have 3 for this. I like the 8 of coins because I can kind of relate to it about having to work really hard, really diligently, and put your head down sometimes and just get the work done, whatever it is you need to do. But this can be shown in a lot of different ways. And these 3 ended up being my favorite for very different reasons. This one, again, is Tarot of the Divine. This one is from the Spacious Tarot. And this one is from the Teeny Tiny Tarot. I'm going to go in this order first. So this one is almost closer to the idea of the traditional RWS, where she's like very diligently trying to form these pentacles. There's a whole story with I think this is, the 6 cranes? This is related to the 6 crane story. I'm not 100% familiar with it. But I remember also reading this from that Beneath the Moon book about how sometimes, yes, it's good to be the person who's diligently and hard trying to work, but we don't always acknowledge how painful it sometimes is. Look at her. She is in pain. She is crying. Her hands are bleeding. Her feet are bleeding. Everything. It's like, it's brutal. Sometimes the work that you need to get done is brutal, and we don't acknowledge that enough, right? So that's why I kind of liked this one, for acknowledging that, yes, it can be good to be a hard worker, but it's also painful. I like this 8. Oh, sorry. Once again, a B. I like this 8 because it once again shows the other side to bees. That, yeah, you can work as a community, but bees are also very hard working. And they have to work to put their hive together, to collect all that honey, or to make, all that honey for others. It can be very taxing and very hardworking, I'm going to put this one off the side just because it has like bug skin. So that's why I liked it. It showed a different side of bees. And this one, this 8 of Pentacles, this might be really weird to some people. They're like, what in the fuck? Because in this deck, for Teeny Tiny Tarot, for those who don't know, it's kind of weird and quirky. And the Pentacle suit is actually called a suit of eyes. So in this case, there's eyeballs. And the reason why I like this one, though, so much is that even though it's like I see it as like a witch with her brew, right? And she's doing her stew, and there's a bunch of eyes. But the art of creating through stew, or the art of making food, if you cook a lot and all that stuff, and I love to cook, so that's why I like this card a lot, is cooking takes time. Cooking takes effort. And if you want something to taste good and to have a lot of flavor, you need to really work it out. And so, yeah, this is just a different way of showing that hard work that could pay off. And so that's why I liked this one so much. It shows that hard work, but in a different way, even though it's kind of weird, but it's showing cooking, and I really like this 8. This is one of my favorite 8s. Oh, interestingly enough, actually these last 3 of the Pentacles all have 3. Interesting. Anyways, I'm going to move on. Just reflecting on that. 3 different 9s. This one, once again, from the Tempest Tarot. You could probably tell by the artwork. I like this 9 because 9 is supposed to be about the abundance that you've accrued after working so hard, right? It's the idea of this one. I like this one because you get it very clearly. This privateer, whatever you want to say, is very smug with himself for having amassed all their riches. He's celebrating. He's having fun. It's a very clear image, though, of explaining that without having to just, like, show a garden. Because a lot of them, they just show the garden, I like that this was depicted in such a way where you easily understand in the context of pirates, This next one, this is from the 5-Cent Tarot, by the way. What's interesting about this deck, for those who don't own this deck, is that I don't actually think a lot of these are my favorites. Even though I like this deck, I don't think a lot of these are my favorites. But this one I found myself really liking because of what it's showing, the 9 of buttons. In this case, they're buttons because this is all old-timey looking. And some of the keywords. So the keywords that you can see, at least in the upright position, are luxury, culmination, and self-fulfillment. Because sometimes this card is self-fulfilling. Like, how did you reach your goals? But I like the things that it shows in that way. Besides, like, the hawk and another bug, sorry guys, the ways it shows it. Interestingly, the art of making grapes and in celebrating with wine. It's showing unscrewing wine bottle. Now, not everybody drinks, so that's okay, but it's just an interesting, I really liked how this artwork is depicted and showing the fact that the abundance of, it's almost Dionysian, is that the right way I would put that? It's very much in line with that idea, though. Dionysus and all that. Really interesting way, self-fulfillment and celebrating because of that, with that. Again, this has a bug. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how many of my decks had bugs in them. I know people don't like bugs. I'm so sorry. I guess I'm not as bothered by bugs as I thought I was. Listen, I don't like cockroaches, though. I don't like spiders if they're near me and they're big enough. I'm just like, get the hell away from me. But I guess a lot of other bugs that aren't like poisonous and shit, I don't care about. But I know a lot of people don't like them, so I'm so sorry. Anyways, these are tangents. Let's get back to talking about the 9. In this case, this is the Monsoon Tarot Mini. By the way, this thing is a baby. I always love it, though. Those are the backs. I like this 9 of Earth because it's referred to as the Earth. It's by the elements in this deck, not by the Pentacles. I really like this 9, though, because it's showing a very different type of abundance. It's showing the beauty and joy and wonder of Christmas Day. Not everybody celebrates Christmas, I know. But this relates to me because I grew up with Christmas. And I just really like how it captures that energy of just the abundance of the things you get to have, this kind of reward. It's just really fun. And it shows that in a way that, again, is not necessarily having to have your garden in bloom and stuff like that. So I really like this 9. And my fading light. Again, so sorry, but it's almost the end. It's almost the end, I promise. I'm on to the 10s. To 10. And I have another 3. Like these for very different reasons. Again, Tarot Divine, Ocean Tarot, and this is the Star Seeker Tarot. Let's start with this one. 10 of Coins. The reason why I like this 10 of coins is because it shows the idea of legacy and your bounty and what you've been able to accomplish in your life in a way that's not just a typical rainbow. It's showing, it's kind of awkward that there's a story behind this dog person, but they have a whole, like, these are all their kids and like grandkids and all these things that they have done with their life. They've produced this big blooming family. And it's just such a sweet depiction of that. I just really like it, you know. And it's showing like their old age, you know, the time has passed and look at all that we've achieved together because they're a family unit, you know, the family life, the stability. It's just pretty. I really like this one so much. Where am I putting this one here? And oh no, I'll do this one. Sorry. I wish the light wasn't fading. Oh, maybe I'll put it back here. See, you can see it more here. This 10, the reason why I like this 10 is that it's showing, for those who are not as oceanly inclined, the reason why I love this 10 is because it's showing legacy of the Pentacles in a different way. It's showing the beauty of a tide pool, about how life and the ecosystem has created this beautiful legacy and built, you know, working society, you know. It's the way of the ocean, but it's just such a beautiful way to show this. And which is interesting, right? Because we think of the Pentacles, it's the suit of earth, but this is showing in a very watery way about how it can connect to all things. And I just love that as someone who's like more fire, water inclined, you know. And finally, this is one of my other favorite 10 of Pentacles because how cute are they? Now, if you guys have seen my video where I was trying to dissect this deck, I really cannot tell. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're a couple or if this is like grandma, daughter, grandchild. I really don't know, but I still love it anyways because it's still showing the legacy of what the three of them have built together, and just in such a sweet and cute way that is not like immediately heteronormative, you know. So I really love it. It's so cute. And it just made me happy when I saw it the first time. So that's why it is one of my favorites. And again, sorry, once again, some of it was a little rambly. Sorry for my fading light. This might be either the penultimate or the last, but I'm thinking of doing one more of these deep dives where I actually want to look at the decks that I own that have extra cards in them and which of those extras out of all those decks are my favorite. Because what's interesting is by doing this exercise and having to look for each individual card, I found a lot of decks that actually had extras and I really liked a lot of them. So I might do a video where I talk about those. But for now, if you want to talk about your favorite Pentacle cards, again, I'm going to call this tag Practical Pentacles so that you can find that, okay? Do VRs if you would like and just talk about your favorite Pentacle cards. Again, I had mixed thoughts. What's really interesting is I understand the Pentacle suits really well. I'm just not always a fan of it, but I was able to find favorites that I thought were really interesting. So what does that say about me? I don't know. But anyways, thank you all for watching again, and I will see you next time. Bye.